the 28th District in the Golden State, State Senator Melissa Melendez. Melissa, how you doing?
Dan, always good to see you. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, been a while. Okay, lots to get to. So let's start with the ban being lifted. I mean, we're talking a few decades here. I was amazed to see this. This has got to be a Trump appointee, or this judge just had an epiphany and decided to follow the Constitution. This is amazing for California.
Yeah, I believe he was a Bush appointee.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I believe he was a Bush appointee. But, you know, there's not a gun that a Democrat in office in California has met that they have ever liked. I mean, I've never seen them defend a policy or a bill that protects gun rights. It's always to take those rights away from people to lawfully own weapons. So this doesn't surprise me. I'm sure they were fuming over the weekend. I'm sure the appeal, you know, they're already writing it, and that's fine. But
except,
I think
Melissa, the ones
correct.
the security details are wearing to guard their butts.
Right.
Then they're okay with those guns.
That's
Had to throw that out. Okay, so that's where that one stands. Let's move on to some other juicy stuff happening in your state, because that's a victory. But again, we'll have to wait and see what happens with the appeal with your crazy governor. Speaking of the crazy governor, wasn't June 15th supposed to be reopening date for California? He would said 100% of businesses, everything's reopening. I hear he's backpedaling now.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, a little bit. It's funny how when the date gets closer and closer, suddenly he's like, oh, you know, gosh, I don't think it's time. I don't think I'm ready to give up my control over the entire state of California. I hope Democrats are ticked off about this, because I know their constituents are. And I keep trying to get this bill passed, you know, SCR 5, to end the state of emergency, because the governor won't do it. But we, the legislature, can. So maybe now my Democrat colleagues will say, OK, it's time, because he's never going to let it go, ever.
This is insane. I mean, I've talked with so many small business owners, because, you know, we're based, One America News, in California. Beautiful state, some beautiful people. But as far as who runs it and some of the wackos, not so much. Let's talk COVID, since we're talking lockdowns from your governor. I just saw that some counties in California are reporting that they probably misquoted their death toll numbers by up to 25% or more. How many times did you and I say, and I've said it on this show, died with, died from, died with, died from? Oh my goodness, now it's coming to light.
Yeah, imagine that. Somebody was finally able to get in there and lift the curtain up and see what's going on behind all this data that they're collecting, data that the governor doesn't willingly like to share. But I think most of us knew all along that we were going to find out in the end that the numbers weren't quite right. It didn't make sense. When I was tracking it just in my county, looking at it, the numbers just weren't making sense. And I would have constituents say, that doesn't add up. And I'd say, yeah, I know, but we can't get answers out of anyone. So lo and behold, here we have it. We now know why we can't get answers, because they're fudging the numbers.
Yes.
Now, whether that's purposeful or not, you know, I'm not saying it's purposeful, but I am saying the numbers aren't right.
So I don't know what happens to hospitals then that got cash, because if it was a COVID death, you got more than just a COVID patient. But if they have to go back and 25 or 30% were wrong because, oh, they had a heart attack, that's what killed them. But when we drew their blood for their death certificate, they happened to have the coronavirus, but no signs, it didn't kill them. Do they have to give that money back now? I wonder. That's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I don't know how they're going to handle that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, let's continue with that. Speaking of numbers, California's numbers have been dropping. Not just the death toll, but the actual cases, positive cases and hospital. Everything is down, correct, from the numbers you can get from this governor.
Which is exactly why we need to extend the state of emergency beyond June 15th, Dan. Doesn't that make sense? I mean, you know, you got to, in order to keep the virus at bay, you got to maintain control. And the only way you can do that is to keep the state of emergency into effect. I mean, that's literally what he's saying, because it doesn't make any sense. If the cases are going down, why would you continue with this state of emergency control issue over Californians?
Well, let me tell you.
Doesn't make sense.
Senator, I've been walking into businesses with no mask for months. They either kick me out, yell at me, or pay me no mind. And I got through COVID a couple months ago just fine with hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. And I'm not listening to these insane lockdowns from this radical governor, who, by the way, my last question will be to you, because I saw this as a headline today. One more about your governor. The wife receiving millions from a major lobbyist that lobbies him and pays and donates his campaign. She's received tons of cash for like 7 years from them. What's up with that?
Yeah, well, I don't know what is up with that, because the governor and his wife won't talk to the media about it. So what does that tell you? They have no comment. Take from that what you will.
And I know that you and the Republicans have such little control in Sacramento, it's hard to get any answers. How many seats do we have up there anymore?
Well, we have very few. I mean, they have a super majority essentially at this point too. We only have 9 of us in the Senate. But, these are questions. I mean, the press, to give them credit, they have been pushing him somewhat on this issue, but he's just not answering the question. He's too busy with the Wheel of Fortune wheel behind him, giving out, $1 million here and $1 million there for people to get their COVID vaccine.
Insane. I mean,
crazy town.
That's when you have to start incentivizing people to get a shot. There's something wrong right there. State Senator Melissa Melendez, thanks for coming on, talking about that really smart judge and all this controversy surrounding the governor. We'll have you back on maybe right around June 15th. See what happens. See if we get to reopen and be
Thanks,
free.
Dan.
Yeah. Take care.
You too.